Hey guys, welcome to my welcome to my first live. So, what I asked this week of people who follow me on social media was to submit some questions, and then I'm going to have a time each week where I go over the questions, and then of course answer questions from you during the live. So, welcome to my first time. I probably need to pull up the live on my computer. So I can see the chat. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat and I will answer it best I can. Okay. So your free time with a functional medicine and holistic doctor, don't take it for granted. And I'm happy to be here. So I have a few questions.
You like it?
So we're live on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. So thank you guys. I'll try to look at all of you. But YouTube will be the main spot. So, all right, I have a few questions that people submitted on Instagram. So every Monday, I'm gonna have a question box where you can put in your questions, and then we'll answer it in the live that week. Okay, so hope it helps. All right. So someone asked me best things to do when your kid is coming down with something, has an infection. So I'm going to tell you some favorite things to help kiddos with their immune system. Okay, so I do a lot of supplementation. So a lot of my advice would be supplements. Okay, it's my opinion that we are all very, very nutritionally deficient. We have a lot of toxins, a lot of stress, and a machine under stress, under a lot of stress, and the machine needs more input and more supply. So that's why I always recommend supplementation. So for kiddos, I really like Conjuplex Chewable from Standard Process. It actually has thymus glandular in it, which when you stimulate the thymus, you stimulate the immune system. So when you eat thymus, you help the thymus react. So that means that you can basically have a better immune response from taking Conjuplex Chewable in kiddos. And it tastes pretty good. There's also something else called calcium lactate in this product. Calcium lactate, what it does, say a kid starts to have a fever. Well, why does someone start to have a fever? Someone starts to have a fever because they want not only to create heat to irritate the infection, but you also want to create heat because the body's trying to pull calcium from the bones into the bloodstream. Why does the body want to pull calcium from the bones to the bloodstream? Because every time a white blood cell goes like this and eats something, it uses calcium to do that motion. Okay, so if there's not enough calcium in the blood to feed a white blood cell to eat the bad guy, the body will heat it up and pull calcium out of the bones, give it to the white blood cell so the white blood cell can eat the bad guy. So with Conjuplex Chewable, the product I'm talking about, it has calcium lactate in it. So you eat it, absorb it into the bloodstream, boom, there's no real reason to raise the temperature. So calcium lactate is actually a natural fever reducer. It's in Conjuplex Chewable with thymus and then a bunch of immune vitamins too. So I love giving my kiddo patients this. They can have like up to 12 a day. It's food. You can't overdose. Calcium lactate does come in a powder too. So if you want to put it in a bottle and have the baby drink it or whatever, that's also a possibility. So I like doing that. There's another product called Acerola Supreme from Supreme Nutrition Products. If you guys are interested in any of these, you can find them all at the Instagram, at my link in bio on my Instagram, which is at Dr. Jarod. It's pretty easy. I think it's in my TikTok too. Hi, TikTok. But Acerola Supreme is a great vitamin C for prevention. And then there's also elderberry. They have an elderberry tincture from the same company, Supreme Nutrition Products. So those are pretty much my go-tos for kiddos. I don't think there's anything else. That's about it. In terms of home remedies and everything, I mean, you can do the garlic and honey mixture, but most of the time it's pretty gross. So I just have the kids take the supplements that I recommended. So that's what I would recommend to do when kids are coming down with something, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as the old saying goes. So I have my kids often stay on Conjuplex Chewable and Acerola Supreme indefinitely because it keeps them from getting sick. I have so many kids in my practice where they'll come in and they'll be like, oh my gosh, the whole team got sick except little Johnny, because Johnny was on Acerola Supreme and Conjuplex Chewable. So if you want your kids to miss less school, not get sick, this is what I recommend. All right, next question. YouTube, if you have any questions, drop it in the chat. TikTok, if you have any questions, drop it here. I'll do my best to answer it. We're going live every week, and I'm answering questions from your online functional medicine and holistic doctor. Okay. All right. So let's see. Next question. How do you support your mitochondria? Okay. So why? Let's first ask. Let's kind of take it back. Why would you want to support your mitochondria? Well, in biology in high school, if you took that class, you probably learned that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. That means that they create energy. And when you have energy and your cell has energy, the cell can do all the functions that it needs to do, such as have an immune system, repair injury, detox, right? What people don't realize is that when your mitochondria are working properly, your body stays a lot cleaner because the mitochondria are involved in what's called methylation. And methylation is your cells taking out their own trash. That's how I always explain it. And for the mitochondria to be able to do that process and take out their own trash, it requires B vitamins or methylated B vitamins, if you've heard that word before. So how do you support your mitochondria? Well, as you age, the number of mitochondria that you have in your body gradually decreases over time. And that's aging. And that's why you have less energy, you don't heal as fast, etc. So ways to support your mitochondria, the first one I'm going to tell you is actually cold plunges. So you've probably seen people do these on the internet or whatever, but whenever you do a cold plunge, it tells your body, we need more heat, we better make more mitochondria, and so then the body makes more mitochondria. So if you do that, if you don't have, obviously a condition that prevents you from doing it, that's a great way to build up more energy, little factories in your cells. Another thing you can do to support your mitochondria is called Body Bio PC. That's a product I use. It's called phosphatidylcholine. Okay. Basically, what it does is it helps repair the membrane of the cell in the mitochondria. Because, for example, like if I'm trying to take the trash out of my house, the door better work, right? It better open, it better shut, it should lock appropriately, right? And so when you take Body Bio PC, you're making sure that all the walls, doors, windows of the house are working properly and are, functional. Because if they're not functional, you don't really have a house. You might have like a wall falling down here, or the door doesn't work here, and you can't really do what you need to do with the house, right? So Body Bio PC is a great supplement I like to recommend to help not only the mitochondria, but help the mitochondria detox, clean up, detox mold. Actually, what's cool about Body Bio PC is if you had a mold exposure, it will actually kick off a lot of the mold toxins that like stick to the cell, and it'll just like pop it right off, which is really, really helpful for my mold patients. So that's a couple ways. Another thing that's not a supplement you can do is just like, it's called red light therapy or sauna, right? Whenever you're in front of infrared rays, which are also for free in sunlight, right? So if you just go out and get some sun, when you do that, it helps basically charge them up, kind of like a solar panel. And so when you have those red light waves going into the mitochondria, they rev up, and that helps you feel calm, more energy, relaxed, right? We all know that after sun at the beach feeling. That's because your mitochondria were properly stimulated. Another fun fact that I was just telling a patient today about like sunlight was that they did a study. Men who got sun on their backs on a regular basis saw an increase in testosterone just from receiving sunlight over the course. I don't even remember how long it was, so I'm going to butcher the study. But so natural sunlight in safe doses helps not only your mitochondria, but also your hormonal health. Because when you fix the mitochondria and you fix the cell, everything else gets better, right? So those are some things you can do for your mitochondria. All right, next. Do we have any questions on YouTube here? Not yet. Someone asked me that they mentioned how I have said that gut health impacts hormones and what's that connection and how do you fix it? So gut health and hormones has a lot to do with estrogen and inflammation. Okay, so men and women both have estrogen. Men create testosterone, women create estrogen, but testosterone gets converted into estrogen through a process called aromatization, which can happen in fat, whatever, right? So basically, However, the liver's job is to clear the estrogen out of the blood, the estrogen that builds up in women and the estrogen that can build up in men, and it's the liver's job to pull it out of the blood. And then when the liver's filtering the blood, where do all the waste products from the liver go to? Well, they go into the colon or into the bowel, right? So if your gut is inflamed and it's a mess and you have what's called leaky gut, when your liver dumps that little bit of estrogen into the bowel, if the gut is leaky, right, that means the gut reabsorbs what it shouldn't back into the bloodstream. So then the estrogen that just got filtered out of the blood, dumped into the liver, dumped into the colon, is now reabsorbed into the blood, and it keeps building. So when you're dealing with like painful periods, or if you're a guy and you're dealing with like low testosterone or man boobs, right, you want to make sure that your gut health is super healthy, because you want to keep the ball rolling when it comes to keeping that healthy hormonal balance. So that's how the main reason gut health is connected to hormonal health. There's even a type of microbiome in the gut called the estrobolome, which just basically means estrogen microbiome. And it's this type of bacteria that actually help break down estrogen and prevent it from building up too much in the gut and the blood and the liver, etc. So that's how gut health is connected to hormonal health. And to support healthy estrogen detoxification, you want to make sure that you have a healthy gut. You want to make sure you're pooping every day, like 1 to 2 times a day. It should be soft and well formed. You shouldn't have any runniness. It shouldn't be hard to pass, right? You want to just make sure things are moving nicely to get the excess hormones out of your system. Okay, someone else asked me, are food sensitivity tests legit or just a waste of money? I personally, in terms of, okay, on a scale, I think I can't be as black and white about this. On a scale of 1 to 10 with food sensitivity tests, if 10 is like super important, you should get done every year, and 1 is like you're wasting your money, I would say a food sensitivity test is like a 3 or 4. Here's the reason why. Because it takes a snapshot in time of how sensitive your immune system is right now to this list of foods. If it's testing IgA, which is a type of immunoglobulin. Basically, it's a type of immune reaction, right? So what you want to do, what you want to make sure of, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, my friend's helping me, texting me, and I lost my train of thought. Bum, 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 bum. Oh yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, food sensitivity tests, they're like a 3 or 4. Reason why? Shows you a snapshot in time of what you're currently sensitive to. That is sometimes helpful if you're like, if your health is a mess and you're trying to just figure out, I need to stop reacting to life. I need to stop reacting. I'm so inflamed. I have a histamine response. Like that's when that information is important. However, as you begin to heal in 6 months, you can get totally different results because your immune system will modulate and change over time and will actually balance. Sorry, my cats are fighting each other. They'll actually balance each other. So over time, your immune system will change. It will re-educate. It will develop different sensitivities, or it will heal from some of them. So food sensitivity test, it's lower on the list of priorities for me when it comes to people, unless you're dealing with a really highly sensitive situation. You can't stop reacting, and we need to collect some data so we can just get everything to calm down. If your dumpster is on fire, yes, we'll do a food sensitivity test. If your dumpster is just a little dirty, you need a little help, no, we'll probably do blood work, hormone testing, something different. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. All right, next question. Red Horse Rainbow asked me, they're always cold, even here in Florida. Had a spinal cord injury and on blood thinners for deep vein thrombosis. So, what's the question? How to not be cold in Florida. So here's something that I would recommend, okay? Usually when you're having like cold, if it's cold hands and feet especially, I really like a product called RNA or ribonucleic acid. What this does is we talked about, mitochondria make energy through something called the ATP process, right? The Krebs cycle, they make ATP, right? This is getting into biochemistry, you don't even know all this. But basically, RNA helps the energy production system move along. And if you're getting cold hands and feet or you're really easily cold, a lot of times the mitochondria in the cells are not making enough energy to keep you warm. So I would look into ribonucleic acid. It's a supplement. You can buy it at my full script in my link in my bio. But that almost all the time, cold hands and feet, it helps so much. You could also look into thyroid hormone. Is your T3 levels where they're supposed to be? You have TSH, T4, T3. You want all of those to be in optimal range because thyroid has to do with metabolism, heat generation, digestion, energy, right? So that's going to help kind of determine whether that is the root cause or not. I would have to know where your spinal cord injury is to be able to basically tell you if for sure that could be contributing to what's going on or not. It's hard for me to say. But considering blood thinners, everything like that, in general, can't give you specific medical advice because you're not my patient yet, but I would recommend some RNA. Try that first, super safe. All right, next question. Thoughts on coffee, harmful, habit, or healthy in moderation? I think 1 cup a day, you're fine. That's pretty much my answer to that. If you're doing more than that, you're probably a little bit dependent on caffeine and you're borrowing tomorrow's energy for today, and that's never really that great of a thing. So you want to just kind of pace yourself. Coffee is taxing on the adrenals, which is not necessarily good because women, especially when they go through menopause, the ovaries kind of relax, they kind of retire, they dry up a little bit, right? And what comes forward to do the job of hormones after menopause? The adrenals. So you really want the adrenals to be happy and healthy, especially in women, because they're going to help you have a normal hormonal function throughout the course of your life. So yes, so healthy moderation, 1 cup a day is probably fine, but I wouldn't do more than that. Also, caffeine does kind of put a damper, a little bit of brakes on the liver and its processes. So if you really want to have a high functioning liver, you would avoid caffeine, or you could do things to help your body detoxify it, like liver support. So that's my answer to that. What is the safest, another question, what is the safest way to approach parasite cleansing without harming the gut? Well, you just have to really know your products. You have to know your companies, right? Because most of the time, the gut is going to be fine and it wants to get rid of the parasites. Here's the thing. Whenever there's an infection in the gut, you're going to have a little bit of inflammation because the infection is causing problems. It's like there's a little bit of a fire in the room, there's going to be some damage, right? So what we need to do is we need to evaluate, okay, how much water do we need to put on? And then how much do we need to pull out the infection or the problem, right? If you're just pulling and you're not doing any calming, you can get some reactions, you can get some irritation, right? Is it still good that you're pulling it out? Of course, but you want to balance it. So that's why with my parasite cleanse that I recommend you should join, we're going to do it in October. It's going to be awesome. We have some of the pullers and then we have some of the calmers, right? So it's going to be a nice little balancing act to make sure that you don't hurt your gut. All right, another question. Dr. Jarod, what's the parasite cleanse you were talking about on Instagram and is it safe for kids? So the parasite cleanse I'm talking about on Instagram, I just kind of talked about it a little bit. It is not what I would do for kids. For kids, it's a little bit different because each child is different and, different ages can tolerate different things. But for kiddos, I really like a homeopathic called Paracord from Energetics. You can buy that on the full script in my bio as well. But it's super cheap. It's like $32 or something like that. And it's just a homeopathic. So it's very, very safe. You can even give it to infants right into the mouth. And when you do that, it stimulates the body to recognize the parasitic problem and get rid of it and deal with it on its own. So I like that. For kiddos a little older, I like Black Walnut Supreme from Supreme Nutrition Products. It's awesome. I have a kid right now who's passing dead pinworms out of their body, and they've had rectal itching, grinding teeth at night, a little bit of mood irregularity. And so we're seeing all of those symptoms drastically improve with those 2 products. So, and then of course, whenever you're dealing with an infection, right, going back to my first question, you can add in some general immune support, like the Contraplex Chewable, Vaseral Supreme, etc. Those things help boost the good guy, boost the immune system, while we over here, we punch the bad guy in the face with the homeopathic and the black walnut tincture. So that's what I would recommend for kids. The program I'm doing with adults is 5 weeks. and it's a lot more intense. And so most of my adult patients will literally have worms coming out of their body or in their stool in the toilet. So I had one guy, he filled his toilet bowl up with worms after doing it. It was pretty crazy. So I'm going to post about that on my Instagram later. All right, that's the answer to that question. I think if I don't have any questions on any of the platforms, I'm going to wrap it up soon. Let's see. Let's do one more. Last question. Are there natural ways to balance blood sugar besides cutting carbs? Yes. Okay, I'm going to name three. So everyone has a blood sugar issue. If you're American and you live in the United States, you most likely will have to focus on managing your blood sugar at some point in your life. And there was a study done in the Carolinas, I forget which school, I think it was University of Northern Carolina. They found that 88% of US adults were not metabolically sound, basically meaning that 88% of US adults were drifting towards diabetes. And I see it all the time, even in patients in their 20s are already pre-diabetic. So if you're not trying to reduce your sugar consumption and reduce your refined carbohydrate consumption, you will be diabetic because our culture is going that way. So if you're not doing something countercultural, you will flow with the rest of the diseased population. Okay, that sounds harsh, but it's true. So besides avoiding sugar or cutting carbs, there are three things you can do to help with your blood sugar. Okay, the first thing, take a walk after meals. Why? Okay, your muscles suck up sugar, right? So if you're eating a meal and then you take a walk afterwards, you're using your leg muscles, which are the biggest muscles in your whole body, and they're going to suck up some of the sugar and absorb it into the muscle tissue. So there's less flowing around in the blood, and so the pancreas and the rest of the body don't have to work as hard to bring that sugar level down because you're just throwing a sponge at it and you take a walk. So 15, 20 minutes, just like a brisk walk after meals is great, especially after your largest meal. So that's the first reason, the first way. Second way is to just do intermittent fasting. Super easy. It's cheap. Okay, it's free actually. You might even save money because you'll be eating less. But basically, you want to get to that 14. I like my patients to start 16 hours fasted because once you hit hour 14, your body begins repairing the insulin and blood sugar system. So if you can get in that window of repair for at least 2 hours a day, that's going to be perfect and a way to help heal and repair your blood sugar system and bring it down. Okay. Thirdly, berberine. You've probably heard of it. It's kind of popular. Some people were calling it like nature's Ozempic. I think that's a little far, but berberine is awesome and helps it bring down blood sugar over time. Berberine is also really good for your gut health and for your immune system because it's an antimicrobial. So it'll kill off the bad guys, but leave the good guys and help you bring your blood sugar down over time. So those are my three things I would recommend to help bring down blood sugar: brisk walk after heavy meals, intermittent fasting, and berberine. So thanks guys for joining my first live. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, and I will see you guys next time.